How do you feel now? I assume you're against abortion then as well.
I'm against abortion when the fetus is sentient, but pre-sentience, I'm fine with abortion.
Pre-sentience. Let me see if I understand correctly. You're giving the benefit of a doubt to a lobster, but not to a human.
Yeah, so I think we can both agree at the moment of conception, a fetus, if you could call it that, is non-sentient.
It's a baby.
Like they're two cells.
Call it a baby.
Well, we're talking about the moment of conception. Is it or is it not sentient?
To me, sentience is not a standard to adhere to. So yeah, I would say no, it's not sentient, but that doesn't matter. It's still a human.
Okay, so you would consider a single cell with the male and female gametes connected to each other to make a unique genetic profile. That is a human being?
Yeah, in its earliest form.
Okay, so again, this is kind of strange to me because you're in favor of protecting a single-celled organism, but you're not in favor of protecting something like a dog from getting eaten for meat?
Well, I mean, I could flip that right back around on you, and I would say that it strikes me as odd that you wouldn't defend a human that is single-celled, but you would defend a lobster that has no brain.
Yeah, but again, the assumption is the lobster is likely sentient, whereas I know for sure, and even you admitted, there's no way a single-celled human is sentient.
But I know a single-celled human will eventually be sentient if it's taken care of and not killed.
Right, but if you can control the outcome, it won't be.
In other words, if you kill it, is what you're saying.
Yeah.
So you can kill the human, but you shouldn't kill a lobster, even though it has no brain. I'm just trying to understand you here.
Yeah. So the human isn't sentient. I don't have a problem with killing a non-sentient creature.
Can you see why I might start thinking that veganism's a little misanthropic?
Well, again, you're the one who's fine with killing and eating dogs.
I'm not fine with it. I would not personally do it, but the point is, I know it can be done.
Right, but
you're okay with if we're talking about kids, so it's fine.
I'm not in favor of ripping apart little kids. We're talking about a single-celled organism.
It's not single-celled for longer than 24 hours. By the time you discover it is far from single-celled. Most pregnancy tests pick that up around 8 weeks. If at the earliest, it's usually around 11. By around week 13, it has fully formed limbs. So yes, you are tearing apart a baby.
Yeah, again, if we look at the number of different conscious creatures we're in favor of killing, I think you're in favor of killing far more than I am.
Well, yeah, except I'm not in favor of killing humans.
Well, we've gone through the name the trait process, and the best answer you could give me is I don't know, because when we trait equalize, you gave me the answer I don't know, so maybe you would be okay with killing humans.
Well, if they're invading my house, I think that we've clarified that. That said, again, if it seems like I'm applying what would be known as the law of the jungle, it is because I do generally see things that way, which is how animals see that things, and that's why they kill each other, and that's why they eat each other, and that's why dogs normally would eat meat and cats universally eat meat, and humans saying they shouldn't doesn't make any sense to me.
Humans saying they shouldn't eat meat?
Yeah, because if that's what they're used to, I give the animals what they want. My dog and cat love that. They've never asked me for a vegan diet.
Okay, what if your cat and dog loved eating people?
Then they'd probably have to be put down. That would be a very
right. So you don't really care, right? So you don't really care about the laws of the jungle. This is about your own personal preferences, and my personal preference is to not harm animals,
but harm humans.
No, I don't. So if we're going to talk about what is human, I think we have different definitions.
We do, but clearly, in my definition, a human baby that's not born yet shouldn't be killed, and in your definition, it can be. So that is a very big difference.
Yeah, pre-sentience.
And on top of that, you're unwilling to kill certain animals, but still willing to kill a human being that has not interfered in your life or committed a crime because it hasn't even been physically born yet. I would say
it hasn't interfered with my life, but it might interfere with a woman's life, and if it's non-sentient, I don't see an issue.
Okay, so in other words, if it's okay to kill a human if it inconveniences a woman, is that my understanding?
If they're non-sentient.
Oh, if they're non-sentient. Okay. Now keep in mind, as I mentioned, by week 13, it would be very hard to argue that the baby is not sentient. At least if you're applying the same standard as a lobster. Am I correct?
Yeah. I think the earliest the earliest evidence we have that a fetus is sentient occurs around 8 weeks, where you see non-reflex neural activity. So that would suggest some sort of
So you're saying
perception going
8 weeks?
on rather than it
Week
around
8?
8 weeks. That's the earliest possible evidence. Like, that's the earliest evidence we have right now that a fetus might have some degree of sentience. So again, and that's from non-reflex neural activity. So it's not from like poking them and then there's some like nerve signaling that happens and they might kick or something. It's neural activity that doesn't have to do with a reflex. So it's possible that they're sentient at 8 weeks. The best evidence that I would say that a fetus is sentient is around 12 weeks.
That's impressive. To understand correctly, you're saying that a human being probably does not have sentience until the second trimester.
Yeah, between 8 and 12 weeks.
While at the same time ascribing sentience to a lobster. I just want to, I'm going to hammer this because I really, really want you to visualize what you are saying. I want you to visualize a lobster in a tank, and I want you to visualize a fetus at week 12. But picture it. It is a human fetus that is growing and becoming a full-size baby. That's what they do.
Well,
in your worldview, that lobster has sentience, and that human does not.
Yeah, so I think sentience arises somewhere between 8 and 12 weeks. Like, again, to be fair, you're even against aborting a single-celled organism. So like right at the moment of conception.
Yeah, I don't want the human to die.
Right. So like a single cell versus a lobster. So like a literal circle versus a lobster. Yeah, I'm going to value the lobster a bit more.
Is going to become a human in 9 months, a full-fledged walking around arguing. Maybe they'll even become a vegan. Who knows? But the point is that they're still a human, whereas that lobster is just a lobster.
Yeah. Again, I think we just have a fundamental difference in values here, where again, I only value sentience, whereas you don't. You value a combination of other things, but I think your values. Yeah. I don't know, because when we did the trait equalization thing a while ago, and I asked you if you'd be okay with killing and eating a human, your answer was I don't know.
No,
so I don't know if you value humanity.
I do not. I did not. When did I say that I would eat a human? I never said that.
You said I don't know. So I don't know if you value humanity, and I don't know if you know if you value humanity.
I can definitely answer that question. It may have been confused in the discussion, but no, I would not eat a human.
Right. So to go back to the name the trait issue then, so if there was a human that lacked culture, that lacked intelligence, but only had a connection to God, just like the animals.
I would argue there's a potentiality issue that you're ignoring, but that's beside the point.
Right, but you would be okay with killing and eating the animal, but you wouldn't be okay with killing and eating the human, even if they were trait equalized, right?
Because I think your trait equalization methods is insufficient for determining whether things are similar or different. In the same, using this trait assimilation method, one could make an argument for the rights of your dog.
Yeah, and I think
the reality
my dog should have rights.
Right, but the reality is your dog doesn't have rights. Your dog's a dog. He's not you. That's just reality. I know that, we can point to he's a loving
Hang on. Gentlemen. I'm sorry to cut in, but that is actually all the time we have for this portion of the debate. There's no great time to end a debate, right? There just never is.
Sure.
So this is as good a time as any. I do want to give both of you guys closing arguments before we move over to the call-in section. Now, Vegan Gains, as Joseph opened first, I'm going to let you close first so he has the last word. Go ahead when you're ready.
Yeah, sure. So, again, I believe my worldview leads to no contradictions. You might disagree with my worldview that I value sentience and sentient creatures should be protected under the law. But But I think his worldview, Joseph's worldview, does lead to contradictions where even if we don't see any meaningful dissimilarities between humans and animals, he would still be in favor of only killing the animal but not killing the human, even when, again, according to him, there's no meaningful dissimilarities. So that's a contradiction, and either he has to acknowledge that he's in favor of taking away human rights, or he is in favor of granting rights to animals. Since he's not willing to acknowledge the contradiction, I think he's just being unreasonable, in my opinion, and I think a lot of his viewpoints are unreasonable. He believes it's okay to kill and eat dogs, which is something I'm totally against, and I think a lot of people are against. Showed you my little dog Finn on stream. I think it would be horrible to kill a cute little dog like Finn, or any dog for that matter. And I think a lot of animals, including chickens, cows, pigs that we eat, they're sweet, sentient, intelligent, curious animals that can feel love and affection just like we can. And they should be protected just like your dogs or cats, and just like you or me. So that's my ending statement.
Understood. Thank you so much for that closing statement, Vegan Gains. Moving over to you, Joseph, whenever you're ready.
I think I kind of pointed out at the beginning of this debate, and there's a reason I threw out the dead vegan influencer as well as the baby who died, because she was fed almond milk. And I think this debate helped confirm things, confirm pretty much some of my suspicions. As pleasant as it was to talk to Vegan Gains, the simple reality is that when we take away the concept of rights, because I don't believe that those exist without enforcement mechanisms, there's no real good reason to believe in the concept of animal rights. But more importantly, that ultimately veganism, for some reason, seems much more anti-human than pro-animal. We find this, we had this discussion. Ultimately, Vegan Gains is kind of, I'd say he's a middle of that kind of, he takes the middle of the road democratic position that babies are usually, as long as it's to a certain period, that's it's okay to kill them. He puts it as this nebulous notion of sentience, which apparently doesn't apply to a small child, even though it applies to a lobster without a brain. That said, again, I'm not surprised. I'm a little sad. I thought the theoretical question of the alien was kind of pointless. I do not like the idea that dogs are eaten, but I am not against their being eaten in case of that situation. Do I like what's going on in China? No, but I don't feel guilty about it. It's not me. I have a cute little dog, and I'm not going to torture her by feeding her vegan dog food. I have a cat. A cat's a carnivore, and I'm not going to play house with the cat and force the cat to eat something it doesn't naturally eat. There is something to be said for just nature in this, and it's, I think, largely been forgotten, misplaced in this weird constructed modernist world. And from that perspective, I think I'll say thanks, and we'll leave it at that.